With Christmas right around the corner, buyers want to shop local. They want to keep their money in the community and they want to feel connected when they spend. Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, where I, Selena Knight, share strategies, interview retail revolutionaries, and delve into the minds of e-commerce experts to help you grow a profitable, independent retail or e-commerce business. If you're stuck in a rut, or if you feel like business is way harder than it should be, or you've overachieved all of the things that you've set out to and are wondering what to do next, or how do I even make this better? I know that you're going to love today's episode. If you're stuck in a rut, feel like business is way harder than it should be, or you've achieved all of the things that you set out to and are wondering what next, or how do I even make this better? Then I know that you're going to love today's episode. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. I'm your host, Selena Knight, the retail strategist, and today we are talking all about shopping local. In fact, we're talking about shopping indie local. Yes, how to tap into your community and tap into the dollars that your customers want to spend and keep local. Let's jump into today's episode. Hey there, and welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. Today, I've brought on Derek Peebles. He is the Executive Director of the American Independent Business Alliance. Now, what I love about Derek is he has had a very community-focused and social-focused background, bringing businesses to life and moving them forward. So I thought he would be the perfect person to come on and talk about how we can leverage being local and being independent in this holiday season. Welcome to the show, Derek.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Glad to be here.
You have had a very varied past, haven't you? And a lot of it is focused on community and social enterprises and growing local businesses. How did you get into this?
Sure. So, I started my career in banking. And so that was my first start, right out of college, working with small businesses. And that grew into doing, investment planning and serving as an investment advisor for a very large bank. And then when the crisis hit in 2009, the economic crisis, that's when I decided to make a jump and to start doing work for nonprofits. My parents were and my family from back home were very community involved. So it's something that was always a value to me. Mm-hmm. And so that was when I kind of made the career shift into working with communities and specifically in neighborhoods of Cincinnati, Ohio. And I've served in a number of roles. I was a vice president for the Urban League of Southwest Ohio. Ran the youth services jobs program in Cincinnati for a couple of years. I've served in roles with the mayor on retaining and attracting young professionals to the region of Cincinnati. And, I've served in a role of economic development. I've even spent some time in academia. And so it's been a wild journey.
Wow. So when it comes to local business, how did you make this jump? I feel like you're the American version of Mary Portas. Like you've done the academia and you've done working with the high street commissions and all these kinds of things. How did you end up with this position, helping the independent businesses to grow? Because I know some people can feel like it's a bit of a lost cause. They feel like there isn't any money in local business. So I have to say kudos to you for stepping up and helping these businesses, because we all know that small business, and we actually don't use the word small in our organization, we use independent. Independent businesses do make up the majority of businesses all over the world. So there is a lot of money there, but they do seem to get left behind.
Sure. Well, and that's one of the reasons why we exist. And so the American Independent Business Alliance serves over 60. We support the growth of other alliances across the country who serve business owners on the ground. And so we have over 60 alliances through about 24 states, serving about 40,000 locally owned businesses. And we typically use the terms independent and locally owned. And the ways that we have served them is at a level of policy, working with local governments, but also working with businesses to help them create consumer campaigns that really kind of spreads and educates consumers about the value of spending their dollar locally. Because I think we all do have this perception that, local businesses don't have much of an impact, but actually they do. They actually do provide a lot of the jobs here in America. And with COVID, with businesses having to shut down, there's never been such a hyper awareness around the impact of local business. And it's unfortunate that a pandemic had to do that, to make people aware of that. But for every dollar that you spend at a local business, it produces $3 of economic impact, and it really has that local multiplier effect. And so when you look at big multinational corporations, they're often their taxes and their dollars are sent somewhere else. For instance, Starbucks. If you were to go to a Starbucks restaurant, those dollars are sent back to Seattle, which is great for Seattle, but not so good for Cincinnati. And so that is the difference of impact in spending your dollar at a local coffee shop versus a chain. And it's really about keeping your dollars local. And so what we have helped do is really kind of the terms buy local and the terms local first are terms that we've really helped become prevalent across the United States. And it's really about educating consumers. But the other side is having a network of business owners that really provide a voice. And so during COVID, during the shutdown, our business owners and our networks were very instrumental in teaching us and educating us on various recommendations that we can make to the government around the stimulus package. And so it works on two ends, and local economies is really what we're promoting.
I really want to talk about the initiatives that you've got, because I had a look on the website, and I think no matter where you are in the world, even if you can't be part of your association, you can take some of the ideas of the initiatives, because you've got amazing resources on the website that anyone can download, that you can take those and put them in place in your business. But I think that concept of keeping the money local is super important, because like you were saying, the Starbucks money might go to Seattle, but there's a lot of money that goes offshore. And
yes,
and not that we're going to go into a let's beat the big guys down, but a lot of enterprise customers don't pay anywhere near as much tax as your local business owners do. So keeping those dollars where they can help your community, because a lot of the people who listen to this show started their business to help their community. They started it because they either found a product that they thought could help other people, or they saw a gap in the market and went, the people who are in my community would love to have access to this product. And I think that's the difference between a big multinational company. A multinational company just looks for a space to put their product, whereas we're actually about helping the people rather than focusing on our own products, if that makes sense. So can you tell us some of those initiatives that you've got? The indie, the shop local, the buy local, the shop indie local. I know you've got Plaid Saturday coming up. Is it Plaid? No, Plaid
yes.
Friday?
Or Black Friday, actually.
Yeah.
And then Cider Monday. I think
Cider Monday. Yeah.
Yes, there's many of them. It's hard for me to even keep up with sometimes.
So tell us a little bit about how you get these initiatives out to the community. Like, how do you, apart from having that on the website, and I just have to say thank you for the advocacy that you do for local business in America. How do you get these initiatives? How do you get people to take them up? Because local business owners tend to be, in my experience, very busy. They're trying to navigate everything. They're trying to find new people for Christmas, for their Christmas stuff. How do you get them to engage and be part of these initiatives?
Sure. Well, I mean, people would probably be surprised that we actually do get a lot of engagement from business owners. And like you said, a lot of your subscribers started businesses because they wanted to help the community. And although they're busy, they really they take the community seriously, and they know that we're there to help them help consumers become aware of their products and of their businesses. And in the past, we have established relationships with the American Booksellers Association, for instance. And that's an interesting story, because when you look at the resurgence pre-COVID, the resurgence of American booksellers really, or independent booksellers, really came from um, ultimately the lifestyle that they were able to provide along with their service. And so a lot of consumers enjoyed going to their local independent bookstore, not because of the books that they had, but because it was an experience. It was something that they did on Main Street. It was one of the stores that they visited on a weekend morning. And so it's really important for these businesses, especially on main streets, to be able to have an organization that promotes and focuses solely on them, because we have been an alternative to your normal chamber of commerce, if you will, because we focus specifically on independent and locally owned businesses. And so again, it's the Shop Indie Local campaigns is really geared towards consumers to spend their dollars locally, but we also highlight business owners, and they enjoy it and they expect it. Having an organization that's nationwide, that's able to highlight their business during these campaigns, is really effective for them. And so although we're trying to get better with social media, we still have a real impact and a reach through highlighting businesses there. And so Shop Indie Local is really a toolkit, and it's a resource, and it's ideas for leaders and communities to be able to put together campaigns to promote their communities. And so we're a resource of resources, if you will. And that's a lot of what Shop Indie Local has really kind of served. During COVID, we had the Save Our Economy Now campaign, and that had more of a policy angle, again, where we were talking to local businesses, and we were learning from the ground up what would be the best policies and the recommendations for state and local and federal governments to take as part of the stimulus package. And we were very instrumental in that. And so through our partners, like the Institute for Local Self-Reliance, like the American Sustainable Business Council, and others, the American Booksellers Association, we've really been able to get this word out. And through some of our policy work, we've been able to really develop papers around and with real research around and data around the impact of the fact that we can become pandemic proof if we focus more on our local economies. And so we've really learned a lot, and these campaigns have been the medium for us to get the word out there.
I mean, we have to take the good out of every bad situation, don't we? We have to see how it can help us grow as a nation, as people, as business owners. And it's funny you should talk about the bookstore, because I follow a bookstore called Powells Books. I don't know if you know of them, but they're in Portland. And at the beginning of the pandemic, obviously they had to close everybody down, and they didn't have any money coming in. So they actually posted on social media saying that they were going to take a while to dispatch books, and they were going to have to lay their staff off. They ended up getting so many orders for books that they were able to rehire all of their 100 staff. Now, this is despite the fact that no one knew when their books were going to get posted. People were just pre-ordering because it was about the community. It was about saying, I actually love what your store does. I love everything that it makes me feel. So I'm prepared to give you my money, even in hard times. I don't know when I'm going to get the stuff. I don't even know if I'm going to get the stuff, but I want to support your business, and I want to support those local staff members and what you do for the community, that they were able to rehire all of those people. And I think that it's one of the examples that I use, because it just says to me that if you are part of your community and you love what you do, and you are actually focused on creating a business that people enjoy coming to, and you were talking about it just before, that experience of going to the bookstore, it can be an online experience as well. But if you can create that experience where people love shopping with you, they're going to want to support you. And just before we jumped on and started recording, I was saying that the searches on Google, we were looking at the trends, and the shop local, buy local, the trends were up over 3,000%. So there's clearly the people who are shopping, especially now for Christmas, they want to buy local, they want to buy independent. So can you give us some strategies? Like you are behind the scenes, you are getting all of these informations, you're at the round table. Can you give us some of the strategies that you're sharing with your members to make this a super profitable holiday time?
Sure. I would say, obviously, with COVID restrictions, this holiday season is going to be a lot tougher than seasons of the past. So we're kind of learning as we go as well. But I would say what we've learned is that businesses who are able to adapt to online services and e-commerce have been able to weather the storm. And also, gift cards. Gift cards is very important because it allows, again, for consumers to support their local businesses and possibly get their product in the future. But for the business, they're able to get cash on hand at that time.
Can I just jump in and ask a question there? Because sure. We have had this little bit of not an argument. We've been having a conversation in our business about whether gift cards are a help or a hindrance, because whilst they're cash flow now, I try and look at the big picture, and I'm seeing a situation where in 12 months' time, a poor business who's used all that money, it's been and gone, now has to give out thousands, tens of thousands of dollars worth of stock without the income coming in. So are you finding that local businesses are saying gift cards are great, or are they sort of not thinking long term, or they're not worried about it because they know that in 12 months, 18 months, they're going to be financially viable again?
Well, this is the interesting part about that. And this, again, goes back to the importance of local economies, because businesses who have been able to source their supplies locally and regionally have been able to deliver their product and hasn't really dealt with any type of delays in deliveries and things like that. Now, if you're looking at primarily retail, then the safest thing to do during COVID is develop a system to where you can deliver your services, whether it's obviously curbside or whether it's online. But I would agree that gift cards can cause that type of hindrance if you're not careful. But for the most part, businesses that are able to that doesn't have any disruptions in supply chains are able to do those type of things, and gift cards do work out well for them.
Cool. Okay. So it's a bit of 50-50 for some people.
Yes,
some people
I would
not.
say so.
You didn't like adjudicate our argument then. You're keeping everyone happy. Okay. Hit us with a few more strategies.
Yes. I think that for businesses that are able to address this pandemic as a public health situation, the strategies around that, which is safety. And so the more you're able to, especially for the retailers. And so, those are really the number one strategies right now, is to provide a safe space if you have customers walking in the door. And those restrictions right now are set by mainly the government, but our local and state governments as well. And I live on a state line, so it's different from Kentucky than it is from Ohio. But for most part, it's the same. But the strategies are really the same, and it's working now. So it's a lot easier for local independent business owners because there's such this hyper awareness of the impact of local business that's had on the pandemic and everything like that. So we announce our different strategies and press release templates every other week or so. And so one strategy is to take our templates for press releases and to try to get some PSA time for your business locally on your radio station. That's one of the strategies that we've had in the past. So that continues to work.
And I think right about now, getting on any radio station anywhere in the world, if you are a local business and if you can find that angle that you're doing something a little bit different, they are going to be very quick to jump on it because they need some feel-good news and they want to show how businesses are bouncing back and how the community is bouncing back. And I think once upon a time where it would have been quite difficult to get media, now if you can just show you're doing something a little bit different, or if you can show that your community are really supporting you, or you've got a product that is very different, or if you're doing something in a different way, it is quite easy to get the media on board and get that little sound bite or that little media bite that you need. And having that can make a huge difference to your business, especially now.
Yes, and so sharing your story. If you're a business owner and you have survived this pandemic so far, then you have a story to be told, and so sharing your story is very important. And right now, like I said, since there's such a hyper awareness of local business in our economy and the impact that it has on our economy, those stories will get picked up by local media because, like you said, they need those stories. And for consumers like myself, who is not able to visit my local coffee shop like I was used to, I want to know if they're still surviving and would support them in any way I could to make sure that they weather the storm. And so
I think we're a lot luckier here in Australia. I'm in New South Wales and we've been pretty free to move around. We've been very, very low numbers, single digit numbers for quite some time now. And so we still have social distancing in place and we still have caps on gatherings, but essentially we aren't mandated to wear masks. Although in Victoria, they did just come out of lockdown because they did have a huge spike. I say huge, our numbers are ridiculously small compared to yours, of course.
Oh, yes.
But our borders were closed in a lot of areas and that didn't happen in America. You didn't close down the borders between the states, whereas we did. And some of the states actually are keeping their borders closed because they don't want, until other states are COVID free, they're not allowing people in. And that's had a huge impact on tourism. So a lot of these businesses that are in tourist spots and can only get people from their same state, obviously their income is going to potentially drop. Do you have any strategies for people who generally rely on tourist trade on how they can get the dollars in?
Well,
I kind of put you on the spot there. We didn't talk about that.
Because, there really hasn't been much of an answer. When you look at the pandemic, especially here in America, that's really been the number one loss of economic activity are the events, the concerts, the gatherings, the things that the sporting events. These are the things that bring people to your community, which allows the local businesses to also prosper. And so the fact that since in America, the pandemic and the numbers are so high, a lot of states are locking down again. And so over the past 10 days, we've had a number of states put on, restrictions to where their businesses have to close by 9 p.m. or restaurants, for instance, are not allowed to be open for 3 to 6 weeks. And these are the type of things that could really put these businesses out permanently. And so that's really the scary part. And so what's really needed is money. To and governance to actually deal with this problem, because our businesses will not survive. And so when you look at tourism, that's the number one thing that really kind of brings dollars in the door for local businesses as well. And without and until we get this pandemic under control, I personally just don't think that there's really much you can do.
It is really just trying to turn back to your local community, isn't it? And getting them to spend their dollars local.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
Right. And yeah.
I would normally come to America twice to conferences, at least twice a year to do conferences and to speak. And of course, that's all gone. So all of my hospitality money, all of my event money, all of my spending money, all those sorts of things is now, well, I have to say, I started renovating my house because because what do you do, right? You're stuck at home. So you start to do renovations. And I'm not the only person, but it is, at least it's keeping that money local.
Yes, yes, and that's really the thing, and so even for the local businesses, again, the ones who have been able uh, to switch platforms to virtual and to do their businesses online, have been successful, and there has been a good thing in that. I don't think, as far as corporations are concerned, there are a lot of corporations that I don't think will go back to that normal 9 to 5 office space. I think they're going to allow their employees to work remotely permanently, and
Yeah.
so that could be a good change. But again, for the local retail stores and the brick and mortar, those are the businesses that have really been impacted the most, obviously, and until again we get the pandemic under control, there's really not going to be a solution. That is the solution, is to conquer the pandemic.
So tell me, do you have any examples of, like, what are the ones that jump into your brain of businesses that have done something different or done something amazingly well to adapt and to bring those sales in these tough times?
Well, I would say, for instance, we have a local business, a chain, well, kind of a healthcare, um, a gym. Actually, it's a series of tennis clubs throughout Massachusetts, and the guy who runs it is also a member of our board of directors. His name is Laurie Hamill, and he runs the Longfellow Health Clubs in Massachusetts, around Boston area. And he's been able to survive by, taking his tennis courses and um, training classes online, to do them virtually. And so a lot of personal trainers who have local businesses like that have been able to do their classes and do their instructions online.
I feel like I need to know, how do you learn to play tennis online?
Well, not necessarily tennis, but they do other training. They have basically a gym where you can
Yes.
also work out, and
Yeah.
tennis is part of what they do.
That's what I did
But
when
when
we
you
were
look
in,
at tennis, that's one of the safest sports,
because you're so
because
socially
you're
distanced.
so socially distant. So
Yeah.
tennis clubs, for the most part, have been able to stay open. But for the most part, tennis clubs raise the majority of their revenues through their workout gyms. So
Right. Yeah, my gym went online during COVID, and I have to say that was one of the few things that I look like. I've got a little space just in front of my desk where the dog usually sleeps, and I had to kick the dog out to give myself a little bit of workout room. But sometimes you need that. You need some routine, because when you lose all of the things that you would normally do, you have to do that for your mental health, and exercise is great for your mental health.
yes, and there's been so many retail stores and restaurants that have been able to uh, be very creative of creating outdoor space, and where there's outdoor heating and things like that. And so we've seen things across the board. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you have any last hints or tips or tricks or any messages that you want to leave us with to make sure that as we go into this peak holiday season? I have to say, here in Australia, they were playing Christmas carols like 4 weeks ago in the shopping. They
Oh,
were
really?
desperate for the Christmas trade. Yes. But we're a month out to Christmas, and we need to maximize this. So what's, like, if people just did one thing, what would it be? If you could give them one piece of advice, forget everything else, what would that thing be?
What we've been discussing, that would be to spend local.
Spend local.
If you're gonna shop this year, try and be creative as possible about shopping local, and help your businesses stay open, and be safe. I mean, that's really the best thing that we can offer right now. But, storytelling. And I would say if you're a business owner and if you have a story to share, people want to hear it. They want to know how you've been able to survive this pandemic because people do care and they want to know. We want to know. And so.
Yeah, I think that is super important because we generally shop locally because we know that there's a person behind the business and we want to know what, we want to know about the staff. We want to know what's happening. We want to know about supply chain. We want to know about whether it's local produce or whether you have, the things that you've done to keep the business alive. So I think I like that one. We haven't talked, I don't think we've talked enough about storytelling.
That's the best thing right now. And right now, it's so easy to make a small video. If you've been able to hire back, if you're an independent bookseller that's been able to hire back 100 of your employees, that's an incredible story.
Yeah. Hey, look, it made it all the way to Australia.
Right. Yes. And so, that's what's needed because it's going to encourage other business owners to adapt and become more resilient.
Yeah. And I think if we know where our money is going, then we feel more connected. Like we feel much better about spending it locally.
Yes. And the result of that is to be able to have stronger businesses that are more resilient in the case that we have a future pandemic or whatever, because we've also been able to show that the local businesses in the communities that have been able to stay strong is because they value local and
they get that community buy-in.
Exactly. And that has a real impact to resiliency when you look at these type of things that we have to go through.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this. If people want to join the American Independent Business Alliance or they want to look at those resources that you have available, maybe if you're not in America, where can they find you?
Yes, so they can visit our website at amoeba.net. That's AMIBA.net. And currently our website is under construction, but we should have that kind of relaunched by the first week of December. So in the next couple of weeks. And yes, and you'll be able to join us online. You get paid for your membership monthly.
Good.
And yes, and so we'll have that capability. And
you've got webinars and roundtables and all sorts of things that people can join in. And can people join if they're not in America? Because the only reason I say that is because I'm really impressed with the resources and the help that you give people. So even if they aren't in America, I feel like there's a lot of stuff there that could help people.
Sure. And we've done that in the past. And so we've had folks and organizations, business associations from all over the world download our resources. And so we're definitely open to that. And yeah, I would say, our campaigns is really, something that people can join without even becoming a member. There's so many resources that are, and things that you can be involved in the local economy and movement, and we're open to spreading that around the world.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for all of that hard work that you guys have put in. I think it's made a huge difference to local businesses. And if you aren't part of a retail association of some kind, check out amoeba.net. Or if you're somewhere else in the world, make sure you just check out retail associations because you'll be surprised at what they can do for you. Thanks again so much, Derek. I hope to chat to you soon.
Thank you. It was nice to be with you. Thanks.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selinaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selinaknight.com and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.